Our topic that we will be talking about is the Age of Reform. The Age of Reform brought many changes, for example, temperance, a change of education, and brought some important people like Frederick Douglass. But the main point we'll be focusing on is the women's rights movement, the religious aspects, and the abolitionists. The first key point was brought by anti-slavery was the abolitionists, which brought Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass that we mentioned before, and William Lloyd Garrison. William Lloyd Garrison was born December 10 on 1805 in Newburyport, Massachusetts. As he grew up, he eventually was inspired by the genius of emancipation. Because of it, what he eventually formed was an anti-slavery paper named The Liberator. And in addition to this, he also believed that the Constitution was a pro-slavery document. When Frederick Douglass was born, he was born a slave, but as time went on, he later escaped from his slavery. And as he grew up, he got eventually married, and his wife taught him the alphabet and later self-taught himself. He was encouraged by Garrison, and Douglass eventually became leader of the abolitionist group. Sojourner Truth was born a slave and later escaped, just like Frederick Douglass. She was a woman who fought for equality for all black men, but not only for men, but for women too. She was well known for her speeches that she said to a large group, and later known for the phrase, "Ain't I a woman?" Harriet Tubman helped dozens of slaves by using, as you may know, the Underground Railroad. Not that type of railroad, but a series of safe routes that slaves were able to escape from and safe houses that they were able to harbor in. She was later wanted because of her deeds that cost owners a lot of money.
Moving on, now I'm going to talk about some religious aspects during the Age of Reform. It was also known as the period of revival. I'll be mainly talking about the American preacher John Noyes and the Oneida Community and some other religious groups not shown. During this period, there was an American preacher who believed in complex marriage. He was known as John Humphrey Noyes. He was born in Brattleboro, Vermont, September 3rd, 1811. He was credited for the idea of complex marriage, and therefore he formed a community known as the Oneida Community. John Noyes was the founder of the community, and based on what he stood for, those who too believed in complex marriage usually participated in this community. Furthermore, into the Oneida, as we all know, it stood for complex marriage. What that meant was that men shouldn't be entitled to one partner. It was the idea that men would and should be able to have relations with multiple women. Finally is a group called the Shakers. They were a religious group or community who believed in separated sexes. They were called the Shakers because people reportedly seen them in a large circle shaking as a form of spiritual relief. It was also a way for them to relieve their intimate feelings. What the Shakers practiced was known as today as celibacy. Celibacy was the idea of once again separated sexes and that their privates belonged to God Himself and no one else. You were not to have any sexual relations and you were to abstain from marriage.
Hello, my name is Quayan Wong, and this is the women's right movement for the Age of Reform. What we're going to be looking at today is going to be important people, or women, to be exact, of the thing. Okay, it's going to be Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Lucretia Mott. But you might not see on the screen, okay? Also, another important event of this is the Seneca Falls Convention. So pay attention. Continuing on from the intro, there are two famous women that you should know about. It will be Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. The one on the left should be Lucretia Mott, and the one on the right should be Elizabeth Cady Stanton. They are both women's rights activists and also anti-slavery reformers. They are mostly well known from trying to enter an anti-slavery convention, but they were banned from it as they were white women, even though white men can go. Continuing on, another woman was inspired from all these known feminists. Susan B. Anthony was a famous one, as she was a women's rights activist and also created the New York Temperance Society for women. Continuing on from the Temperance Society of New York for Women, created by Susan B. Anthony. She was doing this to limit the sale and consumption of alcohol. The reason for this is that as the husbands are drinking more alcohol, they're committing more domestic violence against women and children, so we shouldn't do it. This video has been brought to you by OK Productions.